Monday, fun day here on the NBA tip-off show as we're excited. Are the Celtics going to throw up all over themselves, or are the Cavs going to rise to the occasion? Seems to be a split consensus on this in the marketplace. And same thing for the late night game here is the Oklahoma City Thunder trying to grow up in a hurry here in the playoffs, or will they head back home in an impossible hole down 3-1? These are just some of the questions you probably won't get an answer to because Bryan Power is in the house here. Hey, BP, what is going on? It's always a pleasure to see you. Get to share the camera with you. I think of something along those lines. Always a pleasure, though, my man. In all seriousness, though, you have been killing it in the NBA this playoff season. So always a pleasure to have you here. And these two games, one of them being very close to your neck of the woods there. And I'm wondering what is the local media saying about the Cavs here? How are they playing this team's inability to score 100 points on a consistent basis?
Well, there are two kinds of people, Joe. There are people who, and this is a very small group, who actually think the Cavs have a chance in this series. And then there are the more well-reasoned folks here in Cleveland that just know that it's kind of funny. I texted my dad. I'm like, Dad, this is like 10 years ago, Cavs Hawks, except we're the Hawks now. And the Celtics are the Cavs, because we always used to laugh when we would draw the Hawks in the Eastern Conference semifinals and sweep them, or maybe we'd lose a game, but still be pretty easy. Look, at the end of the day, the Cavs only have one of two possible ways to steal another game. It's like we saw in game 2, where they're making way more of their shots than we're accustomed to seeing, or if the Celtics vomit on themselves like you talked about, or just missing their threes. The problem the Cavs face in this series, Boston's been very smart, Joe. Without Jared Allen on the floor, Boston has actually been attempting way less threes than normal. It's certainly down from the Miami series. They've just been attacking the rim and scoring at will without Allen. I think they're 52 of 72 on shots at the rim. The Cavs just have no rim protection. So the Celtics, even without the three ball, they averaged 1.2 points per possession in the last game. It's really, really hard for me to see a scenario where this series doesn't end in 5 games, quite frankly. And I said, if you recall, before the series began, it was Celtics in 4 or Celtics in 5. Both those outcomes were plus money. So I'm just hoping, quite frankly, the Cavs lose tonight, and then they're dead in game 5 back in Boston, where I think we would all agree, even you and I, no chance for the Cavs to win in Boston. Although they did win there in game 2, admittedly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, didn't they already do that? What do you mean no chance? Don't you go there. Don't you go there. What is the and don't ever say you and I will agree, at least out loud. Let me explain. Let me hear your thoughts here. No word on Jared Allen, obviously, yet. I was shocked at the amount of points that Boston was able to get at the rim in this series. And we all know they can shoot the 3 here, BP, but their numbers in and around the paint are just disgusting as well. And I got to believe no Jared Allen's been a big problem with that. Is there any chance, do we know, is he going to have a chance of coming back here tonight? Because it's got to be able to help them up at the rim and stop giving the Celtics additional points outside of the 3, because they've been absolutely torching them at the rim.
Yeah, I mean, they showed video of Allen shooting free throws at shoot-around this afternoon, about 5 hours ago. Now, the big story is Donovan Mitchell was not present at shoot-around. You have to expect he's going to play. Now, if Donovan Mitchell were not to play for the Cavs, I don't know what their offensive approach would be. It would be 5 people just passing the ball around at the 3-point line until the 24-second clock went off, I guess, because everyone else on the team is afraid to shoot. Dean Wade is kind of the only guy who has some life at the end. I don't think Garland's gone over his points and assists number at all in this series, which is a major problem. So we talked about it. We both mentioned it, whether it's at the rim or from behind the 3-point line. Boston has the ability to get points. I talked about this on the morning wager with Zeno this morning. I wanted to look at the over. I don't think Boston scoring is the problem. The problem is, as you mentioned at the outset, Cleveland. Going back to last year, 3 times, guys, 3 times in 14 games, the Cavs have scored 100 points in a playoff game. Game 3, here at home, they shoot 33% from 3, average only 1.06 points per possession. So that is the problem if you were to like the over, which is at a series low, Joe. We've seen some movement in the market. It's 5 points lower than where it closed in game 1. So it's a low number. Normally I want to attack that, punch back at the market, but I am just so leery about this Cleveland offense being able to score, which they have just not consistently been. I know they've played tough teams in the playoffs these last 2 years. New York, Orlando, Boston, all good teams at the defensive end, but it's not like Boston's going to stop being good defensively tonight. So, tough sledding for the Cavs. They sort of have to hope Boston isn't hitting their threes to have a chance and cover this number.
Seth brings up a good point, and shout out to those of you joining us in the chat. Get Rich Mull in the house on Instagram. Seth S in the house, as well as Alex Martinez. Money back in the house on a Monday. And, of course, Mr. Obi Toppin over on points. Finley in the house here today. A Life in Vegas, Have and Company. Always a pleasure to see you guys. Happy Monday. Here, Seth brings up a good point. He believes the Cavs have a really great shot right up until tip-off. At that point, all shot goes out the window. So until that point, it appears that they might have a shot. But here are some of the numbers, which is why I found it interesting, because we're talking about a Boston team, 32 or 33% from 3 so far. So they're not exactly crushing it, but 52 of 72, 72% at the rim. That is absolute. That is a direct response because Jared Allen is not there. And as much as they need to score points, they can't allow the Celtics to go 52 of 72 at the rim, BP. Otherwise, they really have zero chance. So that's why, to me, it's almost worth waiting. Wait to see some sort of life. If he is in, I give him a better chance of staying within a number. But without him, at some point, they're going to shoot 38% from 3. And then what? You're still going to allow 70% from the rim? They're going to lose by 100 in this game.
Yeah, and the Cavs' only chance is to slow it down, obviously, limit and hope that Boston just isn't hitting those threes. Hope Allen is playing. Yeah, I mean, they're up against. I mean, normally when I see shooting percentages like we saw in game 3, I want to come back and take the team that shot poorly and fade the team that shot well. We see, it's kind of an offshoot of the old zigzag theory. Right. But look, Joe, we both know this, okay? I will not put words in your mouth. I'll be very careful here. But I think most people, okay, whether they're in the chat, whether it's you, but this is the biggest mismatch of the second round. We all know Boston is power rated number 1. And I think we would all agree Cleveland is the weakest of the 8 teams remaining. It's really hard for me to see a path of victory for the Cavs. It's really hard for me to see a victory to the cover. Going back to that total, though, just didn't want to throw this trend out. When you have a road favorite in the NBA playoffs, and we obviously have a road favorite in this game, unders are on a 23-8 run. That goes back to 2021, 2022. That includes 9-2 already this season. So, I talked about wanting to take the over because the number's so low. I don't know. To me, it's Boston team total over or Cleveland team total under would be my 2 favorite looks in this matchup. And I guess at that point, if you don't want to play team totals, it sort of does make sense to just lay it with Boston. I guess we're all kind of dancing around the obvious.
Well, and I'm kind of shot 99.5, right? So we're assuming. But here's the other problem right now at this point in the series. So the spot we all knew Boston was going to show up after losing game 2, right? We all knew that was going to happen. It was it was a pretty simple handicap as far as that goes. But now that they blew them out, I'm back to not trusting anything about this Boston Celtics team when they're comfortable. And right now, they're comfortable feeling that they can beat this team rather easily. This is usually where shit starts to go sideways with the Celtics, where you're expecting them to do the same thing because they can, and yet they don't. And you got to know that the Cavs, listen, at some point we're going to get a game where, Strus is going to be on fire, right? We're going to get, somebody is going to step up here for the Cavs and have themselves a big night. Could this be the night? Because I much see them doing it home than I do at Boston. And that's the only thing that worries me with this Celtics team is that, yes, they should win by 20. But it's the damn Celtics. They're notorious for burning money in this spot here where they, you're going to win the game, but they're also going to allow Cleveland to keep this thing probably closer than it should be. No?
Yes, that's what I was, going back to what I was saying earlier. Like, conceptually, this is the spot where I would like to back a home underdog coming off a bad shooting game. I just think the gap is so wide. You mentioned Strus. Yes, the Cavs need to hit their three. I don't think Cleveland is capable of doing what we saw from Miami in that first round when Miami just shot the lights out in game 2 and Boston made 23 threes, a franchise record for the playoffs for them. I just don't think Cleveland's capable of doing it.
But they scored 118 in game 2, so it's not out of control to think that they can't redo that because Boston sucked and Boston was about as comfortable. And this is the problem. They take their foot off the gas. And that's the only thing that worries me, that Cleveland, if I'm going to play that team total under, I'm worried that Boston doesn't give a shit and they're going to score 100 and Boston's going to score 120.
I would point again to the first round, your Miami Heat. It was the exact same situation, right? The Celtics were off a big game 3, went on the road.
Yes.
We were all saying the same things going into game 4. Okay, do they lay another egg? Do they screw around? And they did not against Miami. Now, Miami didn't have Jimmy Butler, but, they have Coach Spo. He's better than J.B. Bickerstaff. And they've got some guys. Again, Cleveland's entire hope is contingent on Donovan Mitchell getting to the rim, either getting fouled or laying it in. That's it. The rest, you just can't count on the rest of these guys offensively, Joe.
Yes.
Garland has been a no-show. He has not gone over player or points and assist prop in this series once. I believe the number is 21.5 tonight. So, okay, it's at home. You're right. You would like to think if one of these supporting cast guys for the Cavs are going to step up, to your point, it is more likely to occur at home than on the road. But, you look back at game 2 of the series that Cleveland stole. I don't know. Do you really think they're going to make 54% from the field, 47% from 3? I'm not willing to count on that happening. And remember, in that same game, Joe, Boston shot 23% from 3, 41% overall. It was like a perfect storm for Cleveland in game 2. I can't see it. I can't.
Yeah. Well, it's, that's the problem with counting on 3 points, right? It's the biggest variance there is. And if a few of them are starting to fall for the Cavs in this game is also flying over the total, which I believe Desmond Castro there in the chat room, he's yelling over in this game because as this series goes on, especially on the road with the Celtics, I don't think the Celtics were that great in last game, but I just thought that the Cavs' inability to be able to get any rebound and to protect the rim is kind of what did them in there. But at some point, and somebody said it in the chat, Titan CT, I think he said, at some point, Garland's going to earn his check. He's going to show up at home. Strus is going to show. So these guys have to show up. And if they don't, yes, it's a blowout. But it may still be a blowout with this thing flying over 207 is what I'm getting at here, BP. And the team total flying over 100 points for the Cavs.
Yeah, to an earlier point, the odds makers have adjusted compared to what we've seen in the first 3 games. So we had closing totals of 211.5, 212.5, 211.5. So there is value in taking the over. I think the question you have to ask yourself is how much faith do you have in the Cleveland offense? And, if you're just looking at the full game over rather than the team totals market, you could ask yourself, okay, maybe Cleveland doesn't get to 100, but can Boston then drag this thing over by themselves? You would think the Celtics are capable of scoring 110, right? If not more. Now, they haven't done it since game 1, which is curious. Donovan Mitchell had some interesting comments after game 3 when he said, It's a shame we held them to 106 in this game because we still couldn't score and keep it close. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, if you think Boston, and Boston shot pretty well last game. They shot 51%. They're playing slow on the road this postseason. That is another word of caution I'd have if you like the over. Boston's playing slow, and I mentioned the trend earlier with road favorites being correlated with the under in the postseason the last couple of years. Yeah, so that's my only concern here. I mean, I don't know. Maybe like I said, maybe Boston just going over their team total. You don't worry about whether the Cavs show up or not.
Yeah, and that's actually, what are we looking at now? 107.5, 106.5, somewhere in that ballpark there. Even the first halves here, because let's face it, first quarter, first half with the Celtics always seems to be a pretty good look here. Yeah. The Celtics they were laying 4.5 last game. They obviously cleared that. They ended up winning the second half as well, so that was also not a bad look, but 106.5 total points. And are we thinking Cavs don't even get 50 points in the first half? Because if that's the case, then we may very well be looking at a first half under in this as well. 106.5. We need at least 60 from Boston. And to your point, any sort of regression or slow pace, we may not get there with them either. This could be a, 55 to 50 or 48, 47 kind of first half here, and we're looking at overs everywhere.
Yeah,
unders, rather.
As you know, Joe, Boston was great in the first half all season long. This team averaged 62.5 points per game in the first half. I believe that was number one in the league. Cleveland wasn't too shabby either at 56.5 points per game in the first half. And if you look at the playoffs, Cleveland has been averaging over 50 points in the first half. So the first half actually has not been a problem for Cleveland. It's been the second halves when things have slowed down. So maybe there might be a little bit with the first half over, because you got to think the game's not getting over, Joe, without a hot start from one, if not both of these teams. I don't exactly see the pace picking up in the second half and then a relatively low scoring game turning into a high scoring game. It's kind of like last night with Nuggets T-Wolves, right? A game where I cashed the over. The Nuggets shot the absolute lights out in the first half, and I was feeling pretty good throughout because of that.
Yeah, and I know I believe the correlation that you were talking about, BP, as they are asking in the chat room, those of you just joining us here, is we're talking about games featuring a home underdog, right? Road favorite, home underdog has been since, I think, 2021, 22. It's already 9-2 this year in the playoffs, is it not? We're to the under in these games?
Yes.
Yeah, so so under is certainly not a bad way to look at it here if you think that it's going to get worse for the Cavs here. Either way, I am playing over on Tatum props. I don't know what else that we have to see without Porzingis. He's been an absolute machine here, BP. So, and there is no reason to think he won't be just as good. 28.5 points, I think, tonight is his number. I got no problem with that. I know there was a look early, first half points, first quarter points, assists. I just think he is a guy you got to hone in on if you're looking at Boston in any way, shape, or form, because he's a guy that's going to end up with the most points when it's all said and done on his team.
Yeah, you talk about the hot starts. The 4 games without Porzingis, Tatum has scored 9, 9, 8, and 12 in the first quarter alone. So he averages 10 points. He averages over 10 points per game when he plays the entire first quarter this year. It'll be interesting to see what his usage is, I guess. But the first quarter number is only 7.5. So which correlates to So I mean, I guess they're telling you basically. I mean, I don't know, not kind of what we laid out there. I think we made quite the compelling case for a first quarter over for Jason Tatum, if that is a market you are willing to delve into.
Yeah, and not to mention depending on the whistles and what you got, there's a good chance. I mean, Tatum has got absolutely no problem getting to the line in every game. So he is, and he's usually with the ball in his hand at the end of the game, putting it away at the line. So he is definitely a guy I would look at. And if Donovan Mitchell can score, then look at Donovan Mitchell's assists. Because I would imagine, even if his calf is really bothering him and he's not going to be able to push off, while he's going to have to get other guys involved, he usually does that in the first half. And I think his assist prop was 3.5. It's not much either, but I would look at him for the assist as well, because if he is really hampered since he wasn't at the shoot around earlier, then it's going to be all about dishing the rock for him and getting some of these other guys invested there. BP, is it 3.5, 4.5? What is his assist number?
I believe it was 3.5. You are correct. Now, my only concern is the other guy's ability to make shots. The one guy on the Cavs who has consistently played well against the Celtics going back to the regular season is Dean Wade. He's a guy. Let me bring up his numbers here. But he's a guy who I would look to attack. His overs more than Garland. I don't know if something's in Garland's head or whatnot. He just is not playing well. And I get what they were saying in the chat. Eventually, a guy's got to show up. I talk about that a lot. Okay, eventually a guy has to show. But I don't know. I haven't seen it necessarily. I haven't seen a sign. Like, it's not like he's necessarily missing wide open shots. He's just not playing well. Yeah.
No, well, I mean, nobody outside of Donovan Mitchell. It's okay, but during this series, at some point, I would still look at Strus, and not because I'm a Miami guy, but because I've seen him do this before, where he goes MIA, and then all of a sudden he's got 28 points and he's hit 7 threes in the game, and we're all going, how in the hell did we not look at his threes prop? He is going to let them fly tonight. Make no mistake about it. So if the number is halfway decent and he's got half over 2.5 there, BP.
Yeah, I mean, I would take 2.5. I was looking at DraftKings. They have an incredibly juiced over 1.5, which, so yeah, I would look to find 2.5. Yeah, it's minus 175 at 1.5. You don't want to play that. So yeah, I would look to it. If he goes over 1, I mean, for the Cavs to have a chance, and to your point, if he's going to let it fly, it's going to be at least 3 makes. So yeah, I would look over 2.5 on Strus in the 3-point market for sure, because especially if Mitchell's banged up, somebody's got to attempt these threes, and if the volume goes up, you got to hope, pray, think that the number of makes will go up as well.
Donovan Mitchell, 40.5 is his PRA. Jason Tatum, 44.5 is his PRA. And Dosey Boo there says, don't forget about Dean Wade, to your point there, BP. This could be maybe the unsung, out of sight, out of mind. But certainly the numbers are reasonable enough to think that if he does show up, he can certainly help this team, especially if Donovan Mitchell is not 100%. That is true here. All right, big shout out again. Grasshopper in the house, looking for Darius to have 40 tonight. Good luck with that, Grasshopper. We wish you all the best with that all together there. Wessam Monzer in the house. We're going to talk Dallas here coming up. OKC. John Finley, who will forever be known as Obi Toppin over Points Finley. That's a quality name. Yes, there he is. That's John Finley. That's over Points Obi Toppin Finley, who once again figured out a way to get ticket cashed again yesterday. But don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you could. We'd certainly appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram if you haven't done so already. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us here as we look to figure out what is all of a sudden, where are the Minnesota faithful here? I haven't heard them chirping all weekend long. It's kind of shocking. Remember, I was such a Denver homer, and they had the sweep and the brooms out after 2 games. Shocking that series is far from over yet, but neither is this one. Dallas OKC in what feels like, and call me crazy here, BP, is this just not every game feels like a coin flip to me in this series. It really is. And the market is telling you that right now. I've seen some OKC money early today, and it was 2. I'm seeing 1s, then 1.5, somewhere in there. The total is also interesting. 215.5. That was what? 217? I don't know why the total keeps coming down. But that's where we're at in this one, from at least from game 2 or game 3 there. And now we're sitting, we're much lower than what I originally thought it was going to be. It feels like the total is the way to look at this game because, honestly, it's a coin flip. I don't see any edge on the side here. Do you?
Well, to your point, Oklahoma City had a 10-point lead in the third quarter and lost game 3.
Yes.
Now, you want to talk about the total, how the odds makers have dealt with that throughout the series. If you remember, it opened low like it did here for game 1. A lot of over money came in, and the game stayed just under. And then game 2 went way over because Dallas, OKC, who's been so great in these playoffs defensively, just could not get a stop in game 2 at home. And then game 3 stayed way under. I had the winner on Dallas team total under. That was nice, even though they were still able to win the game and take the 2-1 series lead. Similar to Cleveland and Boston, Joe, this is a series where we have yet to have a game where both teams shoot well. So I would say, I would concur with you that we should be headed there. I was surprised the number opened low. Yes, game 3 stayed under, just 206 total points in that one. Dallas didn't shoot well and still won the game. That's probably good for them, shooting 43% and still being able to eke out the victory, come from behind in the second half at home. I actually think Oklahoma City's been the better team in the series, despite being down 2-1. They've outscored Dallas over the course of the 3 games. It's just that Dallas had that great first half in game 2 and was able to come from behind in game 3. So, yeah, it has been a coin flip for the most part. I would not be surprised at all to see the Thunder even this thing up at 2 games apiece, but agree with you. The total did open too low, and it was down to 213 this morning. That was even more shocking. And then the over money came in. So, yeah, I would like to think that we're going to have a game in this series where both OKC and Dallas shoot the ball well.
Yeah, I mean, let's not both of these teams. What were the games? I think in the regular season, like 246 and 247. With I mean, they played epic games during the regular season. They have trended to the over, as far as I'm concerned, in each and every one of these games. And Kyrie only showed up really last game. He wasn't having his typical Kyrie kind of series like he did the first go around. So it feels like the total is definitely a way to look, as well as the prop market. Because if I had to bet it, I would think, BP, I get why a lot of people are looking to the Thunder. But even if the Mavs win this game, I still think this thing is going 7 games. Like, I still don't see a scenario where Dallas is going to go back to OKC and wipe them out, and that's going to be the end of the series. So part of me hopes that maybe Dallas pulls this out, because it'll be all in for me on OKC in the next game at home.
Yeah, a couple things to your points you made about the regular season. The winning team in the 4 regular season meetings, no matter which side it was, scored at least 126 in all 4 of those games. So these, I mean, obviously, we've all talked about here on WagerTalk TV, regular season and playoff basketball's a lot different, but these teams were able to score against each other. And Dallas is a different team defensively now than they were early in the season. You mentioned the player prop market, though. Is it time that we fade PJ Washington? I mean, what is going on here? This man
here's the problem.
cannot miss a 3.
Everybody is doing it. That's the problem.
Yes.
Everybody is going. Anybody who's betting OKC is going, PJ Washington. Oh, absolutely. Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm warning you.
And the guy keeps getting his arm up in front of the camera every time it's him shooting a three. Have you noticed that? I've never seen that on a telecast before. It's always this series. I don't know if it's the camera placement in the arena, but the one guy or whoever's sitting there every game gets his arm right in front of the camera. And then you hear Mike Breen go, bam, for PJ Washington. You're right. And it's at home, I guess. If you would, a role player, you would expect him, if there was a time for him to go cold, maybe it's game 5. Would be the best time to attack PJ Washington unders. But this has been absolutely ridiculous. Him from 3. How is he getting these open looks too? You would think at some point the Thunder, again, a very good defensive team, would be clued in and have someone saying, hey, we can't let this guy continue to shoot open threes, especially with the hobbled Luka. Okay. I mean, he had that great game in game 2, but he struggled the other 2 games. Kyrie was great down the stretch last game, but he can disappear for stretches in the games as well. I don't know. My initial thing was, and I guess maybe it is a square look in the prop market, is eventually PJ Washington has to cool off, because what we have seen from him the last 2 games has been downright preposterous.
15.5 points, I think, is what his prop is tonight. But I think Bill Siebert in the chat room, Bill has got a sane look at this, a very rational look, thinking over 2.5 threes made for Washington. He can still go under that prop and make, because he's obviously going to take the wide open shots. And OKC is okay living with that, because they're not going to put more attention on PJ Washington and leave Doncic to do whatever the hell he wants. They're not going to do it. They're not going to switch. They're not going to and say, well, PJ Washington can't beat us. So, all right, who are you taking off of Doncic now to go guard PJ Washington? It's not going to happen. So they're willing to live or die with him. He is going to get those looks, and he is going to try and make them. So even if you fade his point total, maybe over 2.5 threes, BP, is not a bad look, because he's obviously feeling it at home. I don't see any major adjustment by OKC here defensively that is somehow going to shut him down. And do we all forget he was, if memory serves me, he was a pretty good Kentucky player, was he not, BP?
Yeah.
Pretty sure he was a big Kentucky guy.
And you go over those numbers, Joe, about 2.5 threes, 15.5 points for the game.
Yep.
Like, that's not that high, right? Like, I mean,
that's
to
correct.
your point about, everyone wants to fade him, and it's like, you're telling, it's like, that's quite doable. It's not like DiVincenzo in the last game for the Knicks, where he seemed like, where he was otherworld, like he was even more otherworldly in the previous game, but he was on the road as well, to a point we just made earlier. And so you could see the regression here. And yes, he was the University of Kentucky, to answer your question, by the way. I didn't want to.
Yeah, well, I know he was, yes.
Okay, well, all right. Well,
yes,
I didn't know if you were quizzing me.
Made a lot of money with Kentucky when he was there. So, yes, I remember him very, very well. But he was, I thought, he kind of forgotten about here in the league. He's always had the talent. And let's face it, this is the best surrounding group Doncic has had since I can remember, ever. So this is some guys, it's so much. And how many more times are we going to talk about Doncic being hurt, and yet the guy's still dropping? What's he averaging? 28, 7? I mean, he's still a machine, and yet it's the guys around him that are finally starting to step up. So he doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all. And I think OKC, with the youth and lack of experience, they're still trying to figure some things out. And by the way, it can't just be SGA for you guys. Where the hell is Chet Holmgren? Where is he in this series? I mean, they have literally just manned up on him, and he has disappeared. Chet Holmgren's got to get it going. Does he not, BP?
Yeah, there's been some hints at lineup changes for Oklahoma City that they may go a little bigger, because we knew coming into the series they were at the rebounding disadvantage, and that has played out. Dallas has gotten some second chance opportunities. I agree with you about Oklahoma City at the offensive end, Joe. It does not always look pretty, does it, when they're in the half court? Sometimes sometimes the shot goes in, but it is not always pretty. Giddey is becoming less and less of a factor, obviously. And I expect that to continue as well, moving on in this series. You talked about Doncic, though, and the supporting cast he now has. Dallas did what they They were on a 16-2 run before they just sort of phoned it in those last 2 regular season games with a very good defensive rating. Now, I brought this up in some write-ups that I've done on Dallas in the postseason. They didn't beat many top 6 teams in the West in that resurgence post-trade. I mean, tip your cap to them. The numbers look great. The 1-loss record was great, but they didn't have a lot of wins over top 6 teams. Now, Oklahoma City was number 1. They beat them twice. So maybe that's much ado about nothing at this point. Do we think the team that wins this game is winning the series? Because do we think Oklahoma City can come back from down 3-1? I mean, I know 2 of the games would be at home, but
yes,
I don't know. It is you do think they could come back down from 3-1?
I absolutely do. Okay. I absolutely do. They're not losing at home. They're not losing at home in the at least in the next game. That's not going to happen in Game 5.
Yeah,
I would not going to happen. No way. And if they do lose tonight, it's even bigger on them going at home here. I do think they are close. Again, these are coin flip games. There is no crazy edge on a side with these 2 teams, and the market is telling you that right now. And Luka is still, 1 turn away, and all of a sudden Luka's not on the court anymore, and then Dallas is in real trouble. But I'll say it again, OKC better figure out something else other than SGA. Somebody else has to show up there and help him, because they look a lot like the Dallas team of Doncic in the past, where it's either SGA or what. Somebody else has got to step up here. But I get why people are looking at the under originally, because now I'm seeing it drop again. Now we're starting to see 215s, even 214 and a half, so starting to pop in. And I do believe both of these teams are on a hell of an underrun right now, right? I believe OKC 8-3 in their last 11. Dallas has been trending to the under forever. Both these teams have slowed the pace down tremendously as the playoffs have gone on here. But there seems to be a battle in the market right now with there's a line in the sand that it looks to be 215 here at this point. Maybe the first half, OKC first half, Dallas full game, maybe something in that ballpark. I know there's a lot of guys in the chat looking at OKC first half, first quarter, expecting them to come out hot with a whole lot of motivation. And I think that would serve them well to do that coming out here, and certainly having a lead at the break would be tremendous for them.
Yeah, they had the lead at the break in Game 3, and things were looking really good in that third quarter. And there was just that one run which turned the game on its head. And after that, the Thunder, to the point we were just talking about their offense, it wasn't pretty. They were allowing Dallas to get out in transition off misses, and the game Dallas I think scored 10 in a row, and then they never looked back. They didn't relinquish that lead. But yeah, Oklahoma City obviously needs a strong start. It's very hard to come back on the road from a early deficit, as we've seen. My goodness, that Denver-Minnesota series has seen the road team just jump all over the home team and been able to hold on. But in here, I don't think Oklahoma City, if it digs itself a hole, is, even with your correct point that this is a coin flip type situation, I'm not sure if they're able to close the distance in the second half if they don't play well in the first half. Yeah.
Well, the threes are not falling on any consistent basis for OKC here in the last couple of games. They are, in fact, 8-3 to the under in the last 11. Dallas is 18-7 to the under since the end of the regular season through the playoffs. So, and that has a lot to do, obviously, with Doncic hobbling around, not nearly as up-tempo as it should be, but I find it fascinating. This was as low as 213. It got bet up to 215 and a half, and now we're starting to see the buyback back down in this one here. What does it correlate to you? Does it correlate over OKC, under Dallas? Is that where you think this heads here? And can OKC finally start hitting some threes here and get in a rhythm and get that going?
That is the key question, OKC in the threes, Joe, because the last 2 games, they're 10 of 30 in both games. Add that up, 20 of 60, that's 33%. That's very lousy. Game 1, they shot 46% from 3. That's the game they won. The 3-point variance.
Yep.
It's been the theme of the show here. What's interesting is I think both teams are due to shoot better in this game, Joe. I really do, because Dallas, like I mentioned, being able to win when you shoot under 43%, and they didn't shoot well from 3 in the last game. They were also 33%. Yeah. So we're talking about two teams that did not shoot well in the last game. We had 206 points. The total's hanging out. You mentioned 215. Do we think we can get 10 more points out of these two teams combined? Yes, I do. I mean, they combined for 214 in game 1 and then 229 in game 2. I don't necessarily know if we're going to see that again. Dallas, that first half was amazing with 130 total points between the two teams. But, I don't know if necessarily there is a correlation with side and total. I just think both teams are going to shoot better in this game, quite frankly.
What did they have in the first half? Right. What did they have in the first half? In that last game, they had the lead OKC, because their first half total is 55.
It was.
Okay, so neither team got to their first half total. It's 55.5 right now is there for both of them, their first half team totals, Dallas and OKC. So if you think OKC is going to win the first half, you're probably looking at over 55.5 points in this one here. But that was kind of a struggle to start in the last game. And you mentioned it. They're going to go bigger, which means they're probably going to go a little bit slower, OKC as well, trying to combat the physicality of what's going on here, which I don't know that's just great. They're trying not to give second chance points. They're trying to limit some of the issues that they've been banging around with Holmgren and company here. They've really outmuscled them here. And I guess they're going to try to go some beef early on here, BP, because I do believe they're going with a couple of bigs here tonight is going to be the lineup change for OKC.
Yeah, and you talk about what they were able to do in the first half. Now I know it was at home, but they scored 62 points in the first half in the first two games. Oklahoma City, still. So they didn't shoot that great either. So do you think you mentioned what was it 55.5? So you're looking, they had 52 last game, 62 the first two. Yeah, I mean, I think that number is certainly attainable. It's attainable for Dallas, too, because Dallas had, like we mentioned, 68 in the first half of game 2. Don't look for that again, but, 51 last game. So, I think, Oklahoma City, it's a combination of fewer second chance points for Dallas. Okay, this is not a great rebounding team, no matter what. They're not going to become a good rebounding team magically in the playoffs, but they've got to cut into that. They were -7 on the boards last game. Offensive rebounds, big edge for Dallas. I mentioned that earlier, 15-6. So those numbers need to be cut into, and then at the same time, the Thunder must hit those threes better at a higher rate, I should say. Though that is the two keys. Those are the questions you must ask yourself if you are looking to bet the Oklahoma City Thunder here in Game 4.
And who else besides SGA are we looking at? I think Julio's got Lou Dort, or Big Daddy, rather. He's got Lou Dort over 1.5 threes for them. I can see that. That's probably a decent price there. What is Chet going to do here? There are some people looking at his number, which is, I believe, 22.5, if I'm not mistaken, was what I saw for Chet Holmgren. 22.5 points and rebounds is what Chet Holmgren has, and he's been struggling. My point is they're so streaky. Everybody but SGA is so streaky here, BP. It's like, all right, who's gonna show up? PJ Washington has stepped up. Oh, by the way, Hardaway's back quietly for Dallas, giving them a little more depth here as well. Who's going to step up for OKC here tonight if they're winning this game? It just can't be 40 from SGA. It's not going to be good enough.
Dort's an interesting look because he got into foul trouble earlier in Game 3, and that totally changed what he could do. He got
you can't tackle people.
They had to take him. That is typically against the rules, no matter who is the referee. Yes, that is. They frown on that usually when you tackle people. That I know there's been a lot of discussion about who in the NBA could be in the NFL and vice versa. But no tackling in the NBA. Yes. And I love when he complains about it too. Like, oh, come on. How can you call that a foul? It's like you knocked the man over. And you knocked Luka over. Like, they're not going to call that. So, yes, if he can play cleaner on defense, that will there, and he doesn't get into foul trouble, that will thereby open up you possibly his props at the offensive end, because he's just going to be naturally out on the floor longer. That's the way that works.
47.5 Doncic PRA here tonight as well. I'd be very skeptical of that, although he's been a machine here. What Kyrie, the same usual suspects here for Dallas, I think, are going to be in play. You're looking at Kyrie, you're looking at Luka, and I'd be careful fading PJ Washington, feeling it right now at home. I'd wait until he goes to OKC, and then I would look to hammer him in every way, shape, or form to the under. I don't think that Obi Toppin is playing in this game. Otherwise, we'd absolutely go over his point prop there. Absolutely. Isaiah Joe, over 1.5 threes. Thank you very much, Snow in the thing. Thank you for reminding me of that. Isaiah Joe, over 1.5 threes. Easy and usually plus money is what I am being told there. Are you seeing that as well there, BP?
Yes. I don't really have a read on that. That threw me for a loop, but yes, 1.5 threes. I mean, okay, that at plus money. Let me take a look here. What
at plus money?
Take a look.
1.5 threes.
I have that one handy.
Yeah, it's like plus money too. Interesting. Very interesting there. Another interesting look, the off the beat. Kind of like it there. Everyone's looking at Jalen Williams too, but again, kind of streaky, a little too streaky for my taste to be able to count on him to do anything at that particular point there. But it's going to be an interesting one. I hope Dallas wins this game because, again, it's coming back to Dallas in Game 6. I can promise you that. I'll be all over OKC. But in the meantime, I don't see any way not how to look at this game other than the over. I trust the offenses here. I figure OKC is going to make some adjustments. Points will be there here tonight. And I love the over in the first half, too. I don't think this is going to be a rock fight. I do think threes are going to be flying. I think points are going to be had here. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the over is probably the best play because it truly, to me, is a coin flip here. BP on what happens. Either way, I think we're getting back to Dallas for Game 6. Is that fair?
Yes, I would say that is very fair. And look, the two games we talked about today, the story is there is yet to be a game in either series where both teams shoot well. When you look at OKC and Dallas, versus Cleveland and Boston, the key with the Western Conference match was you don't have Cleveland involved, who we kind of were like, can we really trust them? These are teams that I think you can trust the shot making over the course of 48 minutes. And the fact that neither of them has brought their A shooting game so far in this series leads me to believe there's going to be some positive variance on both sides. So yes, I do think the over is a good look here in Game 4.
Eric D wants to know, what's the problem with tackling people? Draymond does it all the time. That is a solid point. Not going to lie. That seems to work for him. Not sure that's a great long-term strategy, though.
I will never forget being at the bar for Game 6 of the 2016 NBA Finals, and I start jumping up and down, screaming, oh my God, he's going to be suspended the next game. He's going to be suspended the next game. It was actually Game 5 because he was suspended for Game 6. The Cavs killed him in Game 6 to force the Game 7 in Golden State. Yes, but tackling. You can do it, but you get suspended for the big game sometimes.
That might be a problem looking at it. SGA plus money over 1.5 threes plus 130, says Bill. Great job there. Snow also coming up with keep an eye on Wiggins as well as Isaiah Joe. They're getting big minutes here in these games and also at very good prices plus money there. So don't hate that look either. You can always bet. I mean, listen, if you like OKC and you're convinced Boston wins, put them together, BP, right? What's the old ML parlay there with Boston taking Boston money line as well as OKC money line here, right? Plus 100, so it'd be about plus 160. About plus 160 if you want to go that route.
Yep. I've heard worse bets. Possibly. Yeah, that's sure. I think it is. I mean, Boston, I think most people's good agree. So yeah, and then I've heard worse there, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I trust the over more than I do either side in this Western Conference matchup for sure. I really can't.
I kind of agree with you. I kind of agree with you on that
Dallas
side here.
Dallas is going to shoot better too. That's the problem. I think Oklahoma City's shooting is going to improve, but I feel the same about Dallas. I know Oklahoma City had not allowed more than 95 points in their first playoff games, but they played a Zion-less Pelicans team, and Dallas was really bad in game 1 on the road. So we're not going to see OKC as bad as they were defensively in game 2. But I don't know. Dallas is probably going to shoot better at home, better than they did in game 3, is my guess.
Roger Long, by the way, is adding the Dodgers on the money line here in this. Now we've got, this is the ultimate shits and giggles parlay here. Now let me add the Dodgers.
In too.
Now we're up 3-1. Now it's a 3-1 parlay there. If you money line the Dodgers, the Celtics, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, a 3-1. 3-team.
Padres in there.
Money line.
Good.
All right, it's getting ugly here, people. Here we go. Now we're up to plus 470. If you want to throw the Padres in that too as well. Good God, is that disgusting on so many levels. That
Milwaukee.
is just gross.
I gave that up the best bet on the first pitch. Put Milwaukee in there. Let's keep going up.
Let's throw that horseshit team in here too. Where are they? The Brew Crew. Screw them. That's disgusting.
That's the NL Central leaders.
Listen, you give me any more chalk here, I'm going to start snorting it. That's the end of it. No more chalk. I'm out. Okay. That is the end of that here, Deshaun.
I didn't know it was that kind of program.
No way. No more chalk here, man. I'm going to have to get a straw. Darry, good to see you there. Deshaun, also a pleasure, man. OKC first half is the way to go. Also, guys, just want to clarify. What do you want to clarify? What do you want to clarify, Julio? I'm just curious there. You guys are outstanding here. Oh, somebody in here needs it's great, BP. We just got a GoFundMe address for somebody in looks like Nigeria that is needs help. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, we'll be there in a minute.
Those always work well.
No problem.
Those always work well. My bank account number is.
Yes. Donate to charity. Julio saying donate. Just take it and donate it to charity. No, we're out. We are out of here. Guys, you have been fantastic. We appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like button, thumbs up, of course. Best of luck with all of the plays here tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow with a couple of more games here and looking to cash a few more tickets. Until then, we'll see you guys. Best of luck. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good luck, guys. We'll talk to you.